Lesson 7.2, parallel and perpendicular lines and the angles that are formed as these lines cross. So first of all, let's just take note that these two lines are parallel to one another. Okay, so let's remember what we learned in lesson 7.1. Let's call this line A and let's call this line B. I can say that line A is parallel, remember that symbol, parallel to line B. Okay, those two lines are parallel. This red line here is what we call a transversal. Okay, and a transversal is simply a line that crosses two parallel lines. Okay, a transversal is a line that crosses two parallel lines. So we'll call that transversal line C. Okay, line C is what we call the transversal. So when we have two parallel lines and a transversal that crosses them, we get something called corresponding angles. Okay, and I'm going to go into this diagram and I'm going to label several angles that you can see here. I'm going to call this angle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so let's look at the definition. It says corresponding angles, two angles that are in the same position. That's important. Two angles that are in the same position in comparison. That is crucial. Okay, two angles that are in the same position in comparison to a transversal and a parallel line. So let's go back and look here. Two angles in the same position in comparison to the transversal and a parallel line. Let's start with angle 1. Let's get off of that highlighter here. Let's start with angle 1. Angle 1 corresponds to another angle in this diagram. So let's look at angle 1. Angle 1 is above parallel line A, and it's on the left side of that transversal line C. So do you see another angle in the diagram that's above a parallel line and also on the left side of the transversal? Hopefully you notice that's angle 5. Angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding because look, notice, both of them are on the left of the transversal and both of them are above a parallel line. So they're in the same position when we compare them. Let's look at angle 2. Okay, angle 2 is corresponding with what angle? Well, let's look. Angle 2 is on the right of a parallel line, and it's above angle 2 is on the right of a transversal, and it's above a parallel line. Can you find another angle in this diagram that's also on the right of the transversal and also above a parallel line? Yeah, that would be angle 6. Notice, see, it's on the right of the transversal, and it's above this parallel line. Every angle in this diagram has another angle that's corresponding. Angle 4 and angle 8 are corresponding. Look at both of those. They're both under a parallel line, and they're both on the left of the transversal. Angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding because look, they're both under a parallel line and they're both on the right of a transversal. So we have corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are always going to be equal to each other. So we can say that each of these angle pairs that we identified are all equal. So angle 1 and angle 5 are equal, 2 and 6 are equal, etc. We also have what we call alternate interior angles. Anytime we have two parallel lines that are cut by a transversal, we have kind of an interior that's naturally created. Look in between these two parallel lines. Okay, I'm going to highlight that space in green. That space in green is interior. It's between the two parallel lines. Now, let's look at that space in there. There are 4 angles in there. Let's call this angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. There's 4 angles inside of that interior space. We call angles alternate interior if the angles are on the inside of a set of parallel lines and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Remember, this red line, that's our transversal. Okay, the red line is our transversal. So we can say that angle 1 and angle 3 are alternate interior. Notice they're directly across from each other on either side of the transversal. We can say that angle 2 and angle 4 are alternate interior. They're both across from each other on opposite sides of the transversal. So we have alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are also always equal. So we can say that angle 1 and 3 have the same measurement, they're equal. Angle 2 and 4 have the same measurement, they are also equal to one another. We have a third type of angles that are formed when we have two parallel lines and a transversal. These are called alternate exterior angles. Okay, let's think about exterior. That means on the outside. So when we talk about alternate exterior, we are talking about the space on the outside edges of the parallel lines. Okay, this space that I'm highlighting in green is the exterior. It's outside of the parallel lines. We form alternate exterior angles in these spaces. Let's label these angles as 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can say that angle 1 and angle 3 are what we call alternate exterior angles because 1 and 3 are on opposite sides of the transversal. Angle 1's on the left, angle 3's on the right, and they're both outside of the parallel lines. We can say that angle 2 and angle 4 are alternate exterior angles. Notice angle 2's on the right, angle 4's on the left, and they're both on the outsides of the parallel lines. So that makes them alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles are also equal to one another. So we can say that angle 1 and angle 3 are equal angles. We can say that angle 2 and angle 4 are also equal angles. Let's use these diagrams just to review a little bit of what we talked about. We talked about three types of angles in this video. We talked about corresponding angles, and I'm going to use the symbol for angles. We talked about alternate, let's abbreviate alternate. We talked about alternate interior angles. And we talked about alternate, again, let's abbreviate alternate exterior angles. Let's use the two diagrams above. Let's call this one diagram A, and we'll call this one diagram B. Okay, let's start with A. And let's notice here, we've got two parallel lines. Okay, I'm going to outline those in red. We've got a transversal that runs across those two parallel lines. I'm going to highlight that in blue. And we have several angles formed. Let's find some corresponding angles. Let's start with angle 1. Okay, angle 1 corresponds to what other angle in the diagram? Remember, we're comparing position. So angle 1 is on the left side of a parallel line, and it's also above a transversal. So I need to find another angle on the left of a parallel line and above the transversal. That would be angle 5. Let's find another corresponding angle. How about angle 7? Angle 7 is under a transversal, and it's on the right side of a parallel line. So if I notice angle 3 also fits that description. It's under the transversal, and it's on the right side of a parallel line. How about alternate interior? Remember us discussing the interior means the space that is inside of the two parallel lines. So here, highlighted in yellow, is the space inside the two parallel lines. Well, 2 and 8 are alternate interior angles because angle 2 is directly across from angle 8, and they're both inside the parallel lines, and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So 2 and 8 are alternate interior. Angle 3 and angle 5 are also alternate interior. Finally, let's look at alternate exterior. Remember, exterior refers to the space outside of a set of parallel lines. So the space outside the parallel lines here, I'm just sort of coloring in with gray. Okay, so alternate exterior, opposite sides of the transversal and directly across from one another. So that would be angle 1 and angle 7. Angle 4 and angle 6. Notice all 4 of those angles I listed are on the outside edges of the parallel lines, and they're alternate because they are directly across from one another, so on either side of the transversal. What I'd like you to do before you submit your notes to Seesaw is I want you to use angle B, and I want you to give me 1 pair of corresponding angles, 1 pair of alternate interior angles, and 1 pair of alternate exterior angles. This last page, I would like you to save in your notes, but I'd like for you to leave it blank. And we will work to fill this page in together when you attend a teacher-facilitated session for Lesson 7.2.